prophecy of the binding. The prophecy of the church being built upon a stone is a prophetic foreshadow of the end times. Everything that Christ did and said is a prophetic foreshadow and a prophecy. The testimony of Jesus Christ, according to the book of Revelation chapter 19, is a spirit of prophecy in itself. And looking to the account, in Christ sharing about the revelation of Christ being the Son of God, this is also part of a prophetic foreshadow for the end times. Matthew chapter 16, verse 17 and 18, it says, And Jesus answered and said unto him, Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say also unto thee, that thou art Peter, and upon this rock will I build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. So what we see here is a stone that my church shall be built upon, which is my people. And this is a prophetic foreshadow of the stone of the revelation and the restoration of the church in the end times. That revelation stone is seen in Revelation chapter 2, verse 17. It says, And he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. To him that overcome will I give to eat of hidden manna, and will give him a white stone, and in the stone a new name written, which no man knoweth, saving he that receiveth it. Christ is saying to the churches, not just to one church in this revelation, but he says to all the churches, I will give you a stone. And in that verse, he told Peter that he will build his church upon a stone. And on this stone is written the new name, which is Ammi, for my people in Hebrew, for the end times restoration of the church for the end times, that goes out into the wilderness for the 1260 days to the stone, which is Petra, the rock. And what we see is a little stone, and then we see the rock, to where the church goes out to for 1260 days to Petra at the rock with the stone. He goes further on to say about the authority of those in place for this in Matthew chapter 16 verse 19 in the following verse. He says, And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on the earth shall be loosed in heaven. This is authority for the restoration of the church. And we have the keys of the kingdom of heaven for the end times. This is going to be a prophetic foreshadow of what is to come, what Christ said to Peter. And that, at that time, was a restoration of the people of God during the time of the apostles, in the reforming of the church, from the breaking away of the Israel of apostasy and gathering together the remnant. That's what was occurring during the time of the apostles. It will also occur during the end times, which is the woman who goes out into the wilderness. Showing the authority of this, it's in Revelation chapter 11, verse 6, where it says, These have power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. Now we see that the binding and the power of the authority to loose and bind things in heaven is to bring the plagues and to bring the judgments and bring the wrath and bring anything that is wanted to on heaven and on earth. This is the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 23 and 24 says, And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. And the Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. So we see the prophecy with the power of the plagues is the power of the binding with the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And in the book of Revelation chapter 11 verse 6, we see the prophet prophesy and the plague in the earth, and the angel confirms it in heaven. It says, These have power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. So we see the all things that are often as they will. The things that are loosed in heaven are the plagues, like on the sun, the moon, and the stars. They're prophesied in the earth, and they're confirmed in the heavens. And we see that in Revelation chapter 16, verse 8, where the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch men with fire. So we see the power to loose the judgments from the sun are prophesied by the prophet, confirmed by the angel in heaven. And then things will be done on earth as it is in heaven with the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And when we see that the angel pours out his vial upon the earth, then we see in the following verse that the men on the earth are scorched with great heat. Revelation chapter 16, verse 9. And the men were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which hath power over the plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. So we see that the plagues are in the power of the prophet. Revelation chapter 11, verse 6 says, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. And so we know that it is the prophet who is prophesying with the authority, with the keys of the kingdom of heaven. The angel is confirming it in heaven, and the people on the earth are being delegated judgment. And here we see the plagues on the stars of heaven get sent to earth and are loosed from heaven. Revelation chapter 8, verse 10 and 11 says, and the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon a third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. So we see the stars from heaven fall to earth. Revelation chapter 12, verse 4 says, and his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it were born. So the loosening of the plagues on the sun, the moon, and the stars is prophesied from the earth with the keys of the kingdom of heaven. It is confirmed in the heavens, and it's brought down in the judgments onto the earth. Revelation chapter 8, verse 12, and the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. Notice here that we see that the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten. It was smitten. Now let's look back at a Revelation chapter 11, verse 6, about the prophet having the power and the authority. In verse 6 it says, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. To smite. We see here that there's power to smite with plagues as often as they will. And that is the same thing that occurs when we see in Revelation chapter 8, verse 12, where the fourth angel sounds, and the third part of the sun was smitten with plagues. And what we see is darkness in heaven is loosed, and darkness on the earth is loosed. Revelation chapter 16, verse 10 says, and the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain. So we see the fourth angel smites the sun, the moon, right? And it becomes partially darkened, right? And then the darkness on the earth is occurring at this right immediately after. This is a part of the keys of the kingdom of heaven, having the authority for closing heaven, cursing the sun, cursing the moon, cursing the people on the earth. These are all the plagues and under what is prophesied over by the prophet's authority with the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And we also see that the prophesying of the loosening of the four angels from heaven at the four horns of the altar in heaven brings forth the loosening of the four angels on the earth bound at the river Euphrates. So we see this here in Revelation chapter 16, verse 13 through 15. It says, and the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the sixth angel, which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the third part of men. So what we see here is that four angels are loosed who were bound. And this is that authority that is mentioned in Matthew chapter 16, verse 19. And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosened in heaven. It is very clear that the binding and the loosing is the prophecy of the power of the prophet in the end times to be able to loose and bind in the earth and heaven and bring forth the curses. And also the prophecy of the power to be able to plague the air and the sun, the moon, and the stars, and also to be able to prophesy the bringing of the wrath of the Lamb, loosening the wrath of the Lamb on the earth, calling the bridegroom to come. Revelation chapter 11, verse 15, and the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven, saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. So what we see is the prophet prophesying the things in heaven for Christ to come. And Christ will be coming into the earth, loosened onto the earth to bring forth his wrath. And this is what is said in the scriptures. Matthew chapter 6, verse 10. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. So the binding and the loosing, the stone, the going to Petra, and all these things, the power and the authority that is granted, will delegated for the end times, for the 1260 days, will be seen. They're all prophetic foreshadows of the end. And everything that was, will be, and will come is Christ, the Almighty, and whom all will bend their knees to the King of Kings. And they will find, if they do not bend their knees, that they will be bound in the pit. And this is the prophecy of the binding.